everyone, welcome back to my channel and happy Tumbler Tuesday. This week's tutorial is going to be a simple and easy but still fun tumbler to make. I'm going to show you how I created this Hello Pumpkin split vinyl wrap glitter tumbler. I will list all of the products I use in the description box below for you. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. I'm using this striped pumpkin vinyl from AB Designs. I'm also using a 15-ounce skinny sublimation oopsie tumbler. I started out by trimming off all of this excess white of this vinyl. Then I just kind of placed it on the tumbler, figuring out exactly how far down I wanted this vinyl to go, because I still wanted to leave some space for the glitter application that we're going to be applying on the bottom. So I decided to do about 3/4 of this cup. I went ahead and I measured this cup. It was a little more than, I believe, 6 inches. So I went ahead and I cut this vinyl to 4 1/4 inches. Once I trimmed off all the white excess vinyl, I go ahead and I wrap this around my tumbler, just making sure that both ends meet up perfectly. Then I go ahead and I apply this vinyl to my tumbler as straight as possible against that top rim. Y'all, it did take me about 10 tries to get this perfectly on there, so do not stress out if it takes you a few times of taking it off and reapplying it. It took me forever, and I saved you guys that time, and I just skipped through all of that and showed you the last part where I actually was able to get it on in a straight line. I am going in with my X-Acto knife at a 45-degree angle. I'm doing this so it removes a very thin sliver of that vinyl, exposing that stainless steel rim. So this way, when I do my coats of epoxy, my epoxy is curing to the side of my tumbler versus the top rim where it's more vulnerable. If you have a wicked shimmering tool or a vinyl cutting tool, that will work just as well. However, I have one and mine actually cuts thicker off the top than I would like, so I found this 45-degree angle trick with my X-Acto knife works perfect every time. I'm going to go ahead in with some painter's tape and just tape off that bottom portion of that vinyl section. So this way it protects that vinyl from the Mod Podge and glitter that we're about to apply to this bottom section of our tumbler. The bottom of my tumbler had some sticky residue on it, so I just went in with some rubbing alcohol and just cleaned that all off and around that bottom section of any oils and debris from my fingers or just from laying around. For this tumbler, I went ahead and mixed 3 different glitter colors. I used Rumpelstiltskin from Motor City Glitter. This glitter is absolutely stunning. I got this glitter in a cup swap box as an extra gift treat from Nikki from Motor City Glitters. This glitter has a beautiful copper chunky mix to it with gold. It is really, really pretty. I'm also going in with Pumpkin Patch, which is another orange and more of a silvery gold. And then I am going in with Athena from Peachy Olive Glitters. This is also another glitter holographic mix as well. I went ahead in a medicine cup and I went ahead and mixed all 3 of these colors, pulling more so of the orange and the coppery chunky mixes together. I was going for something that would really match the pumpkins that were on our vinyl that we used for the top portion of our cup. And I wanted it also to be more of a fall color as well. So I'm going in with some Mod Podge and a makeup brush, and I'm going to apply my glitter that way. You could totally use the epoxy method or the tack it method. I just went in with the Mod Podge. It was already out on my table. I really don't mind the Mod Podge method unless if I'm ombreing or doing tedious glitter designs, then I will epoxy. But where this is a pretty easy application, I'm just going to go ahead and use my Mod Podge, but feel free to use whatever is easier for you. Once that first layer was dried, I went ahead in with a second layer of Mod Podge. When I go in with my second layer of Mod Podge, I don't drag and pull that Mod Podge. I just glob it on and then I kind of dab around, saturating it that way. So this way I'm not pulling and shifting that glitter that's on the bottom. Once it is fully covered, I will go in with a very light sweeping motion just to blend in any of the lines or little dabbing motion marks that I have, just to smooth out that Mod Podge, so this way you can't see that in the next glitter application. When you are done and satisfied with your glitter application, you want to make sure you pull that tape as soon as you are done with your Mod Podge, so this way the tape doesn't pull off your glitter when it is dry. I go ahead and I clear coat this 3 times with Rust-Oleum clear spray paint, just so that glitter does not shift up into my vinyl section. I go ahead and I mix 20 milliliters of Speedy Petey's epoxy. You guys know that this is my favorite and #1 epoxy that I use. I go ahead and I epoxy the bottom glitter portion of my tumbler first, and then I go ahead and move into my top section, and then I just go ahead and blend it all together. Like I said, I did seal this 3 times, so I knew that my glitter wasn't going to move. But normally you would want to start at the top and work your way down. However, like I said, I had spray sealed this, so I knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere. I go ahead and I cover this with my Speedy Petey epoxy. I let that spin for a few minutes, then I go in with my blowtorch and I pop any and all bubbles that I may or may not see. Once it is completely dry, I go in with a sanding block. I go ahead and clean my rims. I just take my razor blade and I just carefully go around that rim, removing any of the epoxy that has gotten on the top or spooled over into the inside rim of my cups. Once I'm done removing all of the epoxy off of my top rim, I go in with a sanding block and just sand around that rim. I sand around the entire tumbler, making sure that my bottom of my tumbler and around the bottom rim of my tumbler is nice and smooth, and that all glitter pokey bits, if there are any, are completely smoothed down. And then I'm just going to go ahead and sand this entire tumbler, like I said, just to give it that dull look, so this way when we apply the next layer of epoxy, it gives it more something to stick onto than a glossy finish. Once I am done sanding, I go in with some alcohol and a coffee filter, and I really clean and wipe down this tumbler, removing all of that sanding debris before we move on to our decals. For this design, I decided to go with gold textured vinyl and a black vinyl offset. I went ahead and created this in my Cricut design space. It just says Hello Pumpkin. If you guys would like this decal, please let me know in the comments below. I will figure out how I can transfer this design from my Cricut design space over to you. But like I said, let me know in the comments if you guys would like this decal. I struggled with this decal hardcore because the letters were really small, and I just purchased new Cricut blades, and for some reason they're cutting worse off than my other dull blade was. For some reason, none of the settings are working for the vinyl textures that I'm using, so whether I use my vinyl setting for my 651 vinyl or if I use the textured vinyl setting for the textured vinyl, it was just a crazy day of cutting out vinyl. I cut this out probably 4 or 5 times before I was able to actually get this to cooperate. So you'll see me here kind of working it piece by piece, struggling to make this decal my last one that I cut out. But I was able to get it done, so that's all that matters at the end of the day. Alright, so once I was done weeding, I went ahead and I applied the smaller letters separately, just because I was too afraid that I was going to accidentally drop the vinyl or my transfer sheet onto the vinyl and it was going to stick and I wasn't going to be able to get it off. Like I said, I struggled hardcore with that textured vinyl. I didn't want to mess it up again, so I just played it safe and I applied it individually, and that's what worked. So like I said, do what works for you. This is what worked for me this day. Once I was done weeding my decal, I went in with 0.15 by 11.5 black pinstriping, and then I also cut out a 0.07 by 11.5 in textured gold vinyl. Went ahead and layered that onto my tumbler, just giving it that little extra oomph. Once the pinstriping was done, I went ahead and applied my decal to the bottom section of my tumbler. Once my decals and vinyl stripings were all on, I did go ahead and seal this with a layer of polyacrylic just to make sure that our vinyl doesn't lift when we add our epoxy layers. I am going in with fairy dust from Motor City Glitters, and I'm just adding a very small amount of that to my epoxy. I went ahead and I mixed 20 milliliters of Speedy PETEY's 1:1 ratio facet epoxy. And I'm going to go ahead and mix it up really well and apply this to our tumbler. Once I have this epoxied, I go ahead and I let this sit for 5 minutes before I go over it with my blowtorch to pop any bubbles I may or may not see. I let this cure for about 45 minutes before going in with my last layer of epoxy. Let that spin for 3 hours and it was done. Y'all, another simple but easy tumbler that turned out absolutely beautiful. I hope you loved and enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope this inspires you to jump in and create something beautiful. If you like this tutorial, make sure you like and follow and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching our tutorials, and we'll see you again soon.